can catch this later. And why don't we pray and we'll start off here. Anybody want to lead us off in praying off our meeting here?
I'll do it. Why not?
Hey, thank you, Kevin.
There you go, Kevin.
Yeah. Lord, thank you so much. It's for the friends, the faces that I recognize and those that I don't. Lord, thank you for uniting us around our heart for our cities, to have your Holy Spirit fill us with joy on another day of serving you and working to unite your body to be a reflection of Jesus' love across all areas. Guide us and help us to encourage each other.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Kevin. Well, hey, Kevin, we're gonna be. I got an echo here. Do you guys hear an echo?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay.
Seems fine.
It's not echoing now for some reason. Okay. Hey, we're gonna hear from Kevin here in a little bit. So excited for him to be part of our meeting here today. First of all, want to start off by hearing we've had a number of cities that had their volunteer days this last month. Anaheim, Los Alamitos, Colorado Springs, Orange, and maybe others. So I want to just start off with, I know Nathan just jumped on. Nathan, share a quick highlight of something that happened with Anaheim this past month. September 4th, I believe, was your big day.
Yes, hi everybody. So we had 168 or so people, 13 projects, and most of that was outside and in limited capacity rooms and stuff like that. But just served the local community, the schools and the city and seniors. We had a number of projects like that. One of the highlights for me was we created a care bag for every city employee. We have 2,000 employees in Anaheim. And so we custom made, this was a lot of people doing it, but some card making people that made a custom card for each department. We have 12 departments. So in all, we did some of those care bags that just help people that are serving, you know, and it's wear and tear on them. So we loved our city in that way. We probably had about 15 partners involved, and overall our costs back to the city, if you take volunteer hours, donations and all that, was about $24,000 given back in you know, time and energy to the city.
Awesome, Nathan. Very, very cool. All right, Jennifer, Los Alamitos, are you on the line here? Am I not seeing you?
I'm here.
There you are. Hey, Jennifer. Share any highlights that you have this past month.
We held our event. There I am. Okay. We held our event on Friday, September 10th and Saturday, September 11th. And it was a wonderful turnout. We kicked it off on Friday with some painting and sorting projects for a few of our project locations. And then on Saturday, we started off with a 9/11 memorial or remembrance memorial with our mayor and some of our dignitaries, and it was out in one of our parks. All of our volunteers came and they checked in, and then we had a health fair and a pet expo that was attached to it. And then we kicked off the rest of our events. We had 14 projects that ranged from painting to sorting. We had some gardening projects for some of our senior locations, and then a large window washing at our, we have a senior mobile home park in the area. So we went out and washed the windows there. We had about 120 plus volunteers that participated, and it was very well received. We enjoyed the event, and we also held blanking on what it's called. It was a health, not a health expo. One of the sorry, it's early.
That's okay.
One of the health locations had free healthcare provided here. So they did dental extractions, and they also did some health services as well. And so we had that at our community center while this was all going on. So we had 14 different locations throughout the city. Los Alamitos is a very small city. We're 12,000 strong in Southern California, and we're about 4 square miles. 2 of the miles are the military base that we have here. And so for, 120 people to come out and support our projects was really exciting.
That's awesome. Awesome, Jennifer. All right, Rick, you're on my screen. You're right next to Jennifer. Share us some highlight or two at Love Orange this past weekend, right?
Yeah, just as I'm still wearing my shirt, by the way. So
Nice.
we're still, yeah, we just had it this weekend. We moved it to the fall because several reasons. Our city reestablished its historic Orange Parade in May when we normally did our day. And so we couldn't do it that weekend. We helped them with the parade, but also all the college students in our city. We have Concordia and several other universities in the area that are gone in May. So we couldn't tap into that. And Chapman in the city of Orange. So we moved it to the fall, and that really benefited us. We kind of took the key from the Olympics. They have the opening ceremonies are on Friday, but beforehand they have the arts festivals and stuff like that. So we had our nonprofits who, some of them aren't available on the weekends. They don't have staff on weekends, so they couldn't partner with us on the weekends. So they were able to do some projects through the week. And providentially, Concordia University was, they had a cert day and they canceled their classes for an entire day and bussed out students to our city. So on Tuesday, we had bus loads of students stopping in and doing projects at different things in the city. So that was really cool. And then we had evening classes and online classes and stuff like that through the week. But the main thing was on Saturday. And amazingly enough, this was our 12th year. So the DA of Orange County sent us his rep came and brought us a proclamation, and our House of Representatives guy brought us another proclamation. And so that was pretty cool. That added to kind of some of the celebration stuff. We partnered with Trellis and especially Raina from Trellis to help us to get some of the stuff off the ground. We don't have any full-time staff, so that was helpful. And hired another staff to get it done. We had, I think, the total throughout the week, just around 500 volunteers and about 31 projects. And from fun runs, we ended the day with our last fundraiser. Our last event, a project of the day was, instead of having a rally lunch together, we had our people go back to our nonprofits or the restaurants in the city that were sponsors, and they gave a portion of the proceeds to the Youth Centers of Orange. That was kind of a fundraiser. So there was people in green shirts like all over the city. Kind of an interesting thing. I was sitting with the mayor eating, and all of a sudden a not so great biker club also who uses green shirts showed up in town, and about 75 of them pulled right up next to us. So it was an interesting combination. And the mayor said, you may want to change your colors next year. So anyway, yeah, it was a fun day. We really, it was really good kickoff post-COVID. So we're grateful for all that.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right, Corey, share with us about Colorado Springs.
Yeah, hi everybody. Corey Smith from Colorado Springs. Our movement is called Cause I Love You, or COS I Love You. We had our we call it Movement Week, this past week. So we, middle of the week, have a leadership gathering where pastors, key business leaders, key civic leaders, nonprofit leaders gather for dinner and get to learn about the most pressing issues in the Pikes Peak region. We had 200 people in attendance from those groups and from those sectors. And it was just a beautiful representation of the unity in our city. And it started to feel, I think over the years, it's become more like a reunion, which is really special. I would say we were really encouraged this year. I was really encouraged this year by the warmth in the room. So that was really powerful. And then on Friday night, we had the citywide worship gathering where we had about 600 people at 2 locations. Our bands, our worship leaders, our pastors that are leading the night, that plan the night, are from all different churches. So there's no 2 people from the same church on the stage, which is pretty incredible. And I love watching the way that our churches work together to create a service for the city that's ecumenical. That was really powerful. We had Pastor Wilfredo de Jesus come in and speak to us, which I think was he was challenging. He was real. He talked to us about reconciliation and unity, and that's exactly what we needed. And then the next day we launched into our city for a day of service. So this past Saturday, we had just over 3,100 people out serving the city at 175 locations. 36 schools. This was our 7th year. Some of the cool projects I'll just say really fast. We had a delivery of goodie bags to every single fire station in our city. So every first responder at our fire stations got a little goodie bag with their name and with a card of encouragement. We had 1,400 pairs of shoes that we shipped in to divvy out to a school district here in Colorado Springs, athletic shoes. So there just were some amazing projects. We had neighbors serving neighbors. That was beautiful, raking leaves. And then I think the one story I had in my mind to tell you guys today, and probably the most encouraging thing that I've heard in the past 24 hours, is a volunteer say, hey, we were on the fence about foster care, but this past weekend we served at a foster care organization, and that what sort of pushed us over the edge. The Lord's been putting that on our heart. We got to be on site, learn more about their organization, and we're following up with them to pursue foster care more. So I think for us, that's the goal of our day of service, where people plug in and get to know organizations in the city. So thank you guys.
So awesome to hear. Thank you, Corey. Man, this is exciting, y'all. I mean, just to hear from other cities. I love some of the ideas. I don't know if you guys are picking up some of the creative ideas that we could use in all cities. You can kind of consider some of those ideas might work for you. I love the creativity of branding too. Like I love like Rick's shirt. He's got instead of a red heart like we have, he's got the orange heart. I mean, you're an orange. You better. I just love, and then because I love you. I mean, I just how the freedom that you guys have, to do what works best for your city. Even like Rick, you're saying that parade things or whatever the big city thing in May. Yeah, don't compete with your city event. Have it in the fall. Works for you guys. That's awesome. I mean, so I just super encouraged to hear this. All right, I'm gonna plow through some things here so we can get to Kevin here. Okay, so next month we have a bunch of cities that are doing volunteer days here in October, and actually a bunch this Saturday in a couple of days here. So we're gonna be in November. We're gonna be hearing from a lot of the cities that had their volunteer day in October. So I'm excited about that. If you have questions about preparing, I'm gonna hang on the phone here, or the Zoom, whatever afterwards, as long as needed to help you and to think through, strategize, whatever we got to do to make sure your day is a success here in October here. Next spring we're 6 months away from April, which a lot of our cities have a spring volunteer day. And so if you go to our city leaders page under city resources, you'll see that calendar. You're 12 months away. This is what you should be thinking about. You're 10 months, you're 9 months, you're 6 months away. So if you're planning on a volunteer day this spring, man, there's a whole lot you should be thinking about right now so that the spring will be successful. I am so hopeful for the spring. I wasn't hopeful about a month ago, but I'm more hopeful now that we're going to be able to have, return our rally and festivities and all that. I think some of you guys are already doing that. Man, I feel like we've been walking on one leg for the last year of just doing projects, but not having everyone come together in the city. And so I'm really hopeful that we're gonna be able to do that. There might be some limitations. Maybe we can't do open food or whatever. You have to work with your county, your regulations in your city and all that. But I'm really hopeful, as stadiums are filling up, more and more people getting vaccinated. I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to, all of our cities are going to be able to have the full experience of a volunteer day. So, all right, so that's next spring. We'll be talking about next spring a little bit, next meeting as well. Some important updates. Right now, over 30 website enhancements are being completed. And so your suggestions that you all brought forward to me, we're working on those, implementing those, as well as I went to over 15 different volunteer platform sites that are out there. And I borrowed a lot of ideas that are out there so that I'm telling you, our site is going to be it already is amazing. We're moving up the ladder here, man. I mean, this thing is just going to be incredible. So next month, you're going to hear me. I'm going to walk through some of those things that we did, some minor, some major. But you're going to love it. And then by December, we should be all done. All these updates should be done. Next thing, city leaders contract. So if you go to here, let me share my screen. If you go to here's our city leaders page, /city leaders. You go to contract. This right here is due. Of course, my screen is stalled. Let's do this. It's already loaded here. This is due this month. So I've been talking about the last how many months? October 31 every year is our day where I need your contract. I need you to sign this. agree to this and send in your annual donation, depending on your city size right here. So I have to write a fat check to our developer in November. And so I want to make sure I'm on time. And so therefore I need you to be on time. So if you have any questions, any concerns or anything, please let me know. But I want to make sure that we can get that done by October 31. Ideally sooner the better would help me out as well. Movement Day. All right, Movement Day is October 22nd. We're just in a couple Fridays from now. And y'all been getting my posts, you've been getting my emails, and now we've got the one and only Lisa Matthews with us. She's in here somewhere in one of these screens here. I can't see you, Lisa, but
Here
Lisa, there you are. Hey, there you are. Hey, can you give us your best 1 minute pitch why every city here needs to be part of Movement Day on October 22nd?
Hi, everybody. So excited to hear your stories of what you're accomplishing in your cities. And wow, I just feel encouraged being here with you. So thanks for letting me come on today, Jeff. Just want to extend an invitation for you to join us for Movement Day together on October 22nd. We have invited cities to convene groups to join us. But we have recently added a little bit of a pivot because we know that some people are still a little bit hesitant to gather. So if you wanted to gather a group virtually, we have quite a few cities that are doing virtual watch parties. Or if you want to just join us as an individual, if you're just like wanting to kick the tires of Movement Day and you just want to see what it's all about, I invite you to join us. You can go to our website and I'll put the link in the chat. And there's a link on our page that says sign up as an individual. If you want to join us for that as well, that's definitely a-okay. The last thing I want to tell you is that the afternoon of that day is going to be really important because we are bringing on 4 seasoned practitioners who are going to share stories of their success. And I think you'll be just as encouraged if you want to join us for the afternoon. Any questions, give me a call. I will put my email in the chat as well. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, so I want to share with you, here's the site to go to. You guys see that? The movementday.org/together, host cities. Click here to register myself, click here to register my city. And man, I just want to encourage you all to really, I know this is new for you. Most of you haven't heard of this before this year. But just get your feet wet, just check it out. And so we, our city, I share with you guys what we're doing. We're on the West Coast, so afternoon is late morning here. And so I kind of share with you, here's how we're doing this. We are going to gather our core teams in the cities around us here in person. And I feel like just the bonding that's going to take place and the discussions that are going to take place from some of the talks that we're going to hear is just going to be invaluable as we grow here locally here. So, I want to encourage you, if you can, get your core teams together, watch and learn and interact. And man, you're all going to be better for it. I really, really believe that. Okay, moving on here. Love Our Cities. What is Love Our Cities all about? Okay, so real briefly, Love Our Cities, we're about citywide volunteer days, the event. We're about citywide initiatives, citywide year-round involvement. If all we're doing is the event, we're not winning. We got to be about year-round involvement as well as a catalytic event that we have. We're also about citywide convening. And this is what we discovered in COVID, is that people are looking to us in our city. We can gather all different people from different sectors in our community. And so we are the conveners in our community of getting people together to addressing the biggest issues that each of our cities has. Undergirding all this, we're about this network and collaboration of leaders. And that's all of you. That's all of us here, is that you're not alone. Our cities are different all over the country. But guess what? We're also a lot alike. We have a lot of the same challenges and a lot of the same resources. And man, learning from each other and just hearing at the beginning of this call, man, it's just so encouraging to hear the good that is going on. And I know that you guys are inspired by that as well here. So, hey, I want to introduce my friend, Kevin Palau. Kevin, I got to find you on the screen here so I can look at you as I'm talking. There you go. Yeah. Hey, I met Kevin, I'm thinking over 12 years ago at Good Cities in Arizona. I think that's my first time I met you. And I met your dad before I met you. And y'all, I just got to say, I am just I've been so encouraged over these years, tracking with Kevin, tracking with the, his organization, how they've evolved and grown, and seeing his dad on and off stage, seeing this ministry when no one else is looking. I've just been so encouraged, and I know you will be as well, to hear from Kevin. And I just know, yeah, you're going to be a blessing, Kevin, to us here today. So I just want to start off. Please, tell us your story briefly. Tell us your story of you, your family, your dad, and how all this came together here.
And yeah, now I will do it briefly. And about half of you, it's like, oh no, they've heard me tell this story so many times. How do I shift it around a little bit? But yeah, Kevin Palau, Portland, Oregon. I'm the president of something called the Luis Palau Association. Though my dad, Luis Palau, Argentine evangelist, growing up as a kid, the Billy Graham of Latin America. That was kind of the shorthand way people would say, who's this guy? So you might know Dad went to be with the Lord about 6 months ago, after a 3-year, super encouraging, actually, battle with cancer. I mean, the vast majority of those 3 years were amazing. And like Jeff said, such a godly, humble, joyful, amazing guy. So our journey, our quick journey that kind of connects that kind of world of uniting the church around big event evangelism to what we're talking about here, that might seem like a big distance. But for us, the quick story is it's our Portland journey. We're based in Portland simply because my mom's a native Oregonian, and Mom and Dad met in 1960 at Multnomah School of the Bible, as it was then called. And simply because it was kind of home territory for Mom, that's where we've been based. And Portland, most of you, or a lot of you, are West Coast cities, or cities that are used to the challenges of not being in Bible Belty sorts of places. Portland's very much like that. So for us, our kind of intersection between evangelism and loving and serving the community came from simply saying something in Portland needs to combine those two things. There's so many negative attitudes toward Christians in a place like Portland. A lot of people are very consciously anti-Christian. They're not just randomly have questions. They are very secure in their lack of faith, very articulate in their anti-faith, or at least let's say anti-Christian, or let's say specifically anti-evangelical perspective. So in our case, I think probably like a lot of you, we would maybe share some of that DNA in common of, hey, the church is known more for what it's against than what it's for. How do we change that story? So for us, this is a 15-year ago conversation. Our awakening to it was we were already planning to do a big evangelistic festival, which we had done 10 years earlier, which drew 50,000 people over 2 days. So this time, though, this was way back in 2008, it's like, got to combine it with community service. So as obvious as that is, I mean, super, super obvious. At the time, it was like, wow, this feels kind of revolutionary. Like, instead of just preparing with 500 churches to do a big family-friendly music festival in our waterfront park, let's go see the mayor. Let's go commit, which was kind of risky, 15,000 volunteers. We ended up having almost 28,000 that were part of like 350 different projects over the summer of 2008, with the festival as a celebration of, look at what we, the collective people of God, the Jesus followers, look what we can do. Not in a triumphalistic, like, oh, look at us, aren't we great? But more, hey, when we are together seeking the shalom of the city. Jeremiah 29:7, which is a verse a lot of you probably are like, yeah, duh. But again, for us, this was all 15 years ago. This was like, wow, we weren't actually aware of a lot of this going on. Now, of course, we see it everywhere. It's like a lot of things. When you discover something, it's like, oh, how did I not see it before? And two, oh, there's lots of other people that are way ahead of us here that have been combining word and deed for a long time. So for us, since that kind of revolutionary, like, oh my gosh, we've gone over a period of 15 years now. We call our movement Together PDX. PDX, like, cause I love you. COS is their airport code. PDX is our Portland airport code. So it makes sense in Portland. Together PDX. Really the festival and the city serve effort was our first kind of launching into it. We had no conception of a sustainable movement. That thought at the time, movement.org didn't exist back then. The first movement day hadn't happened back then. So for us, it was our mayor, Sam Adams, who's now back in the mayor's office in Portland, kind of as a special assistant, because Portland, as you probably know, has taken a lot of big steps backward. It's not the beautiful place it was. If you came to Portland right now, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I thought Portland was awesome and beautiful. This looks like a war zone with boarded up windows and graffiti everywhere and homeless encampments everywhere. Literally, we've seen like we've taken steps backward. But Sam was the mayor at the time, who started off pretty skeptically toward the Christian community, because as the first openly gay mayor of a top 25 city, he had reason to kind of say, I don't trust these people. Well, fast forward, he goes through multiple of these service projects. He sees transformation of Roosevelt High School and the foster care being engaged. And he was the one that we give credit to, standing on the stage in front of these 25,000 people that were there that day and challenging the Christian community and others that were there. Let's keep doing this year after year. We had not, I'm embarrassed to say, that thought hadn't crossed our mind. We were perfectly happy to say, this was awesome. We mobilized 28,000 people to serve. We had 50,000 people come and hear the good news, and thousands respond to the gospel. And phew, we got through that. Now let's go on to Buenos Aires and Manchester, England, or whatever. So because he assumed we were going to continue doing it, that forced us to say, somehow we need to figure out, because again, this is 15 years ago. There weren't, Love Our Cities didn't exist. At least I don't think it did yet, Jeff, right? 15 years ago. Movement.org didn't exist in its present form. So we kind of struggled along like a lot of you are doing, except now we have each other and we have systems like Love Our City that help us all learn and have best practices.
Kevin, what do you remember what it was? What was it that caused that shift? What was it that your organization was like, hey, we've been big events for a long time? Do you remember some of the things, the markers that took place that said, man?
Yeah, it was a super simple meeting of 100 pastors, where the pastors themselves, 15 years ago was that kind of maybe a high watermark of the missional movements. We can't be attractional only. Let's be missional. So really, it was nothing more than kind of the signs of the time, move of the Spirit, wind of the Spirit, behind this sense of like, we got to get out of the walls of our church. We have to recognize that putting on better programs within our congregation, I got the better worship leader now. I got cooler worship band, with torn jeans and skinny jeans, like everyone's going to come now. It's like, yeah, you might attract 100 people from a more conservative church, but like, what is that doing? Like, how is that helping build the kingdom? I think there was just the obvious awareness, like we are in such a hole of misunderstanding that we dug ourselves. We didn't mean to, we didn't vote to do it, but the media, play into it. It doesn't take very many nutty Christians to make us all look like we're insane and hate mongers. So I think it was just really the sense of like, enough's enough. Let's just take a step of faith. Let's go see the mayor. Let's band together. 100 churches became 500. And in our case, again, we were already preparing like a year later for another one of these festivals, which had brought the body of Christ together. It's just that now it's like, let's make it equally about loving and serving the community with no strings attached, as well as uniting and proclaiming the good news in a winsome way. So it seems super obvious. And now that's what we do everywhere we go, and partner with lots of different cities in different ways.
Well, hey, let me just share this real quick. This is the story that Kevin just shared, but in a longer format here. The book that he wrote a few years ago here. So go to Amazon, you can check it out. It's an easy read. It's a fun read. It's
easy meaning not
read.
very deep. I think he means easy meaning like,
yeah,
it's like a child's play. No, I don't. I know.
Thank you. But honestly, I've shared with you guys that we finally finished the book that we're writing about what we're doing here. Just trying to finalize a publisher, and there's just so much that I had no idea that goes into this after you get done writing it. But our book is modeled in some ways after Kevin's book, and I actually asked Kevin to write the foreword, so he wrote the foreword to our book. So whenever I can get the thing to come out here. Hopefully this next year, you'll be seeing that here. Let me ask you this, Kevin. Tell us about your current organization and how can you be a help to our cities? How can you be a resource to what we're doing?
Yeah, and that it's a good question because, because now I think the Spirit has clearly spoken to so many people to say we need to be united. We desperately need each other. I think the challenges of the day make us more aware of the fact that we've always needed each other. It's just now it's more clear, like, wow, the tide feels like it's going out fast. The wind is hitting us hard in the face and it's cold and like we need each other. So that's a super positive thing. But I'd say for us, we've kind of tried to figure out like what unique niche might we play. For a while, we were doing a lot of the very same things that movement.org was doing, or let's say Love Our Cities. We had so many people saying, oh my gosh, I saw you and the mayor of Portland on, ABC World News with Diane Sawyer, or in Reader's Digest, or speaking at Catalyst. And because, there was a little season where it was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. Openly gay, progressive mayor, Portland, Oregon, evangelical churches working together. So it was a little like a little season where we were hitting the road, and he loved it, by the way. He's kind of a ham in his own way, Sam. He kind of likes an audience. And when he realized that these evangelicals not only weren't like hate mongers and horrible, like, wow, these are the people that are like the best people in town when it comes to loving and serving. So we hit the road, and I guess over time we formed a little, what we call our City Gospel Movement team. It's just a little 4-person divisions, pretty grandiose, but they just exist like what Lisa and movement.org do. How do we help share best practices and serve? So we have citygospelmovements.org, the website, which among other things tries to map out every known, especially on the US side, every known movement. So if you go there, for example, citygospelmovements.org, and you're like, hey, we're not on there, just let Jeff know or me know or whatever, or just go on there and give us the information. We're just trying to make it a simple place of sharing best practices. I mean, I would say Love Our Cities is very tangibly focused practically on the important niche of this kind of community service. Movement.org now, I guess the quick thing I'll say to conclude what we're doing, we recognize, I don't have time to go into this much, but we recognize in our movement now 15 years old, Together PDX, that we were so focused on loving and serving the community, which is vital, and kind of unity, prayer, and serving the community. When we had our 10-year retreat to evaluate where we were strong, where we were weak, though we began very holistically, meaning loving and serving, no strings attached, which has led to 70% of the public schools having a school partner. The foster care system has been so revolutionized that now the only way you can become a foster parent or volunteer in the foster care system in the state of Oregon is to come through what was originally the church-created portal called Every Child. So all that happened great, but we realized evangelism was kind of nowhere on the map. I think there was just an assumption like, well, people are just going to share their faith randomly, kind of just naturally. And we realized like, no, they're not. In Portland, at least, the last thing they will do is that. Like, they will happily serve, but to try to winsomely, appropriately express the love of Jesus in verbal ways or seek to have spiritual conversation, much more challenging. So we formed within our Together PDX team, we have our Prayer PDX team, Pastors PDX, Serve PDX, and then our newest is Share PDX. So with Alpha, Crew, InterVarsity, FCA, Young Life, some senior pastors that are super evangelism minded. That's kind of just one more team of what we do. So we have about 15 cities from New York City to San Francisco Bay Area, Phoenix, South Florida, that have said, hey, help us find a way to make natural, organic evangelism a part of our movement, because we recognize that that's one biblical mandate along with loving our city. It's one way to seek the shalom of our city is to help individual people and families discover a relationship with Christ. So that would be one kind of niche. If that rings a bell in any way, like, yeah, we are kind of struggling or have questions about how do you authentically, without burning bridges. I mean, in Portland, we are very concerned to not burn bridges or lose credibility by doing evangelism in kind of a, awkward, inauthentic way. So trust me, we're aware of the potential dangers, but that would be one kind of niche that we've kind of landed on, Jeff, in order to not be confusing and kind of duplicating what, for example, movement.org does. So I'll quit with that.
Hey, let me open it up here. Any questions that you guys have that you'd want to ask Kevin?
I got one.
Yeah, Ian.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, Kevin, how Portland has taken some steps backwards recently. And so it sounds like you've had movement going on in Portland for some time, but yet you see and we're seeing from a distance as a city, Portland taking these steps backwards. So my question is, like, how is the collective church responding to these steps backwards? How is the movement influencing the city, really, like in the context, just from where you're sitting? I'd love to hear your take on that.
No, it's a really good question. I would say not as well as we should. I'd say the fact that it happened partly maybe because of the unique pandemic challenges and a feeling of division. I mean, you have the same things are happening in Portland that I presume are happening where you are too, where there's the great sort, as they call it, even within churches, of like, I can't believe you're getting vaccinated, or I can't believe you're making us wear masks. We're all leaving and going to this other church that doesn't make us wear masks. I can't believe you don't even believe the gospel anymore. So it's like we've been stunned a bit by like, are you kidding me? That's your level of discipleship? You can't say that because it's like, but you know what I mean? So I would say the great news is that the unity among these hundreds of churches maintains strong, though there's been some discouraging times for pastors. I would say our unity in relationship with the city is strong. And so for example, when we have this 100 days in a row of violent protesting, who does the mayor call? Like, okay, we now desperately need help to clean up the city. He calls together PDX, meaning me. We gather the 50 largest churches on a Zoom call just like this. And the mayor says, I need your help. I don't even know where to start. So boom, month later, 2,500 volunteers from the churches hit the streets without tension and controversy. Why would we clean up the city? These crazy progressive people are going to let the windows get broken the next day anyway. So you have to sit and say, yeah, we can't guarantee that it's not, but it's like, we're called to love and serve. So it's like, it's harder. It's like what felt easy 15 years ago, no problem. 10,000 people, 15,000 people volunteering. Now it's like harder work to get a quarter of the people to volunteer because COVID, tension. So I would say though that the favor with our city leaders, Department of Human Services, school districts is higher than ever. They know these guys deliver. That's the positive side. I think the positive side too is, I know that there are pastors that are like, man, if it wasn't for this movement, I would have quit a long time ago, because I can't take this percentage of my parishioners that are just insane. And they can't, who are they going to say that to? So I would say like it seems like we're going backwards, and maybe in some tangible ways we are, but to me, it's just like, it's simple. It's like, we're called to be faithful presence. I care very much that homelessness is worse than it was, but I think like we can't say, oh, well, we tried, we failed, so let's just go back to where it was before? Go back to like not working together, having less credibility with the city? So to me, it's like, yeah, we have no choice but to continue doing the right biblical things. It's like we share the gospel. Well, what if no one came to the Lord? Well, gosh, that's discouraging and sad, but like, we're called to be faithful, credible witnesses in word and deed, whether or not we have the response we want. And of course, we hope and trust that as we do the right things, eventually the tide turns. So good things behind the scenes, faithful unity, favor with the city, though it can be discouraging. We need each other to stay encouraged. So
no, thanks for sharing that, because that's the hard and dirty work of what we're up to, right? And like, we need to hear those stories as well as the good stories that are happening, because,
That's good.
and I just want to thank you too, just for leading out in this movement and helping even show us in the midst of it what that needs to look like. And that's part of it. So thanks
That's
for
my
doing
feeling.
that.
It's like now with the book, you know, it's 7 years old now, and I reread it. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to do a total revision, because like people are like, Portland, that place. I mean, in some parts of the country, it's like, oh my gosh, that's the worst example of like progressivism run amok they've ever seen. It's like, yeah, that's why the church needs to be united and to be there. And you know, let's see, in another 5 years, hopefully we'll be on a better footing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kevin.
Kevin, thank you so much for your time and being with us. And man, I really appreciate you and just sharing your story and just how, man, just the faithfulness that you've exhibited all these years has just been really encouraging for all of us here. Because you're right, we have great stories in our town, but man, we've got the same challenges similar to you have. I mean, maybe not as extreme at times, but we got other challenges that you don't have, you know. And I think all of our cities, man, these are tough days, but these are days of opportunity too. I mean, that's what I see. I'm hopeful. I'm like, you know what? I love that we got challenges all around us here. What an opportunity we have to meet those challenges. When everything's going great, no one's calling us as much.
Yep.
It's when we have these incredible challenges that they're calling us. So thank you so much for being a part here.
Thanks, everybody.
You're well. Hey, you go to your meeting, run to your meeting.
Yeah,
You're
I got to
good.
jump into to something else, but I really, those of you I haven't met, I hope to meet you in an even more personal way sometime. And the rest of you
Sounds
that I
good.
know, God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, y'all. Hey, next month, we're going to be hearing from the October cities. And, but I also want to spend some time next month talking about year-round involvement. And I want to hear from different cities. I can see us maybe going to breakout rooms, but just hearing about each city, sharing about some of the creative things, the ways that you are rising up to meet the challenges that are facing your city right now, and just getting the ideas from each other. I think we're going to have a great meeting next month, talking about what we're doing year round, as well as our volunteer day, but also year round. Some cities I know are able to do more than others, and that's totally understandable. But I hope that we can encourage each other in that here. Hey, I'm going to stay on the line here as long as needed. So feel free to jump off. But thank you so much. I appreciate you all. If you need any help, I'm here for you. Blessings. Have a great Wednesday. All right.
Hey, Jeff.